Well, time to laugh. Are you ready to see what the drinker thought of Kraven? Let's get it, y'all.
Some things in life are just not meant to be. The plant that withers and dies no matter how well you care for it. The first date that you just can't strike up a rapport with no matter how much booze is involved. The family that you try to join by sneaking into their house in the middle of the night only to get discovered and they just won't stop screaming. Or in this case, Sony's bizarre and often laughable attempt to exploit the handful of Marvel characters they still own the rights to by establishing their own mini-cinematic universe.
By the way, I read the other day that they had the ability to use Spider-Man in every single one of those movies if they wanted to. They just chose not to.
Because really, who can forget the cinematic delights of Morbius, Venom, Madam Web, or in this case, Kraven the Hunter? Well, everyone it seems, which is why Sony are officially abandoning the whole thing so they can concentrate on strip mining the one property that people actually still care about.
Spider-Man.
Get ready for a lot more Spider-Man projects over the next few years, boys and girls. Anyway, you're not here for that. You're here to listen to my review of Kraven the Hunter.
Yes.
God knows why, but whatever. Let's just get into it. Does it live up to the total?
Because you're funny, man. And you know what you're talking about. And you want the same things that we want. Great entertainment again. I, Donald Trump, endorse this message.
Non-existent hype? Was it worth the 2-year delay? Is it even worth 2 hours of your time?
No. Nope.
You know how the studio released the first 8 minutes of the movie a couple of weeks back in a desperate attempt to drum up some kind of interest? You know how some of the top comments were, "Man, I hope this doesn't turn out to be the best 8 minutes of the film." Well, I'm pleased to say that they absolutely are. Kraven the Hunter is something that I'd struggle to even call a movie, because it's less of a structured narrative with a beginning, middle and end, and more like a bunch of disjointed scenes and action sequences thrown together into a blender and spat out the other side. Actions and events have almost nothing in common with their consequences. Characters talk at each other like they're having completely different conversations. The antagonist is one of the weakest and most ludicrous villains I've seen in any movie ever. The acting is atrocious, the effects are laughable, and there's an almost palpable air of indifference to the entire movie. It feels like a film made out of obligation, purely to retain the character or to fill a release slot, instead of something that anyone gave a shit about. In short, it's about the same quality level as Madam Web, but whereas Madam Web at least gave us some funny memes and Sydney Sweeney, Kraven is just weirdly empty. It's a film with no heart, no soul, no energy, and no real reason for existing. I mean, it opens promising.
That was a good part of the movie. He's chasing these guys that kidnapped his brother. That was pretty cool.
Interestingly enough, I guess, with Kraven infiltrating a Russian prison so he can get to the warden and take him out, because it turns out that the man's an arms dealer who's responsible for killing a lot of innocent people. Why exactly is an international arms dealer also working as a prison warden in some frozen gulag at the ass end of nowhere? Don't know. It's a neat enough sequence that's focused, well shot, brisk and businesslike. And the reason I call it out is
this movie was bad enough for him to fit in the Negan. Really? He can fit it in. Let's see if he can make it work. Let's see if we see it.
because it's so completely different from the rest of the movie that it almost feels like it was lifted from a whole other project. And basically, it's all downhill from here. And this brings us to flashback time. Young Kraven and his brother Dimitri are on safari in Africa with their dad Russell Crowe.
And the bad CG animals. Spoiler for 10 seconds. Just close your ears and count to 10. All right? Ready and go. His dad gets killed by a bear at the end of the movie. This is the worst CGI bear I've ever seen in my life.
Kraven gets killed protecting Dimitri from a lion, but that's okay because a little girl shows up who's actually a voodoo priest or something, whose gran told her that she needed to be there to save him, so she gives him a magical bullshit medicine that brings him back to life and turns him into a superhuman hunter.
I told you! I told you.
Fuck it, let's just keep going.
He's laughing.
Kraven's become a kind of boogeyman who hunts down criminals and bad people. And after he's finished that job in Siberia, he heads to London for Dimitri's birthday. But oh no, Dimitri gets kidnapped by Rhinoceros Man who wants Russell Crowe to pay a ransom for him. But because Russell Crowe's not interested in helping, Kraven instead tracks down the voodoo priest who's now working as a lawyer in London. Wow, that was lucky. Lucky that she happened to be based in the same exact city where the bulk of the action takes place. Also, how exactly did Kraven find her? Don't know. He just kind of shows up wherever the script needs him to be, and his only explanation is, I'm a hunter.
Spider-Man 2's Kraven is leaps and bounds above this Kraven. I don't understand why they made him like this. He's got a good look. They should have patterned the mannerisms, the voice, the tone of the Kraven from Spider-Man 2. And they wouldn't have went wrong. I still don't know if it would have been a hit, but they wouldn't have went wrong with Kraven himself.
Anyway, so that's your setup. Kraven wants his brother back and Rhinoceros Man wants him dead, so he uses a superhuman assassin to hunt him down.
Who's
but
he?
That's okay,
Who is he,
the
by
voodoo
the way?
priest shoots him in the head with a fucking crossbow, and then Rhinoceros Man turns into an actual rhinoceros so that he can have a fist fight with Kraven. And even though his skin is supposed to be so impenetrable that even gunshots don't do anything to him, Kraven stabs him in the stomach anyway, and then he gets run over by a bunch of buffalo and dies. Then Kraven figures out that Russell Crowe actually
a la Mufasa, that rhymed with the King bars.
Engineered the whole thing, which makes no sense because he almost died and lost both of his sons multiple times, but let's not think about that. Then he makes a bear kill him, and that's it, that's the film over.
So horrible that bear looked.
Fuck me, what was the point in any of that? Like, genuinely, I got to the end of the movie and my first thought was, what did we even accomplish here?
The triple. That was funny.
He's still a hunter like he was before, and his father's criminal empire is still standing like it was before. The only thing that's changed is who's in charge of it now. For a movie that's well over 2 hours long, it's amazing how little actually happens in Kraven. The plot is simple to the point of being almost non-existent. His brother gets kidnapped and he has to get him back. That's it, that's all it is. Kraven just kind of teleports from place to place, following clues off screen and getting help whenever the writers can't think of any other way to move things forwards. Rhinoceros Man is given almost no development as an antagonist.
None.
We don't know who this guy really is, where he came from, what he cares about, what his connection to Kraven is, or anything else about him. And that's okay with me because pretty soon I didn't give a shit anyway.
Nope.
Calypso, the voodoo priest, is another non-character who has all the
Pretty
personality of a beige-coloured cinder block, and fuck me, the actress playing her couldn't give less of a shit if she tried. She's supposed to be some kind of vague love interest, but it never really goes anywhere, and she and Aaron Taylor-Johnson have what I can best describe as anti-chemistry. Whenever they're together, it's like watching two robots exchanging information, except they both think they're having two different conversations. Answers often have no connection to the questions that prompted them. One of them will just suddenly blurt out something that has nothing to do with what's being discussed, and it all just reinforces my suspicion that this film's been butchered with reshoots and rewrites. The casting's a fucking mess too. I mean, I like Aaron Taylor-Johnson as an actor, and he's come a long way from his Kick-Ass days, but damn, he was badly miscast as Kraven. He looks lost and indifferent most of the time, like he doesn't really know.
For those of you that have never seen it, go watch Undisputed 2, starring Michael J. White and everyone's Yuri Boyka, Scott Adkins. You look how Scott Adkins plays Boyka. Boyka's my favorite character in that movie. Watch how he plays him. All they had to do was transpose Scott Adkins into this movie with maybe a different haircut. That's it. He's rough enough, tough enough, dark enough, badass enough to play Kraven and make it truly believable. Now, he did some stuff in here. I'm not saying that he didn't do some physicality and stuff. It was just, like I said, how he played him. No accent. Just regular dude you knew from high school named Matt. Like, what? What? Never mind.
know how to play the character in a particular scene, and after a while he doesn't really care. And who can blame him, because Kraven feels like a character with no clear motivation, goals, or even personality.
People are saying, oh, they probably told him not to do it because, USA has a problem with Russia. If that is true, it's the stupidest thing in the world. He's a villain anyway. Supposed to be one of Spider-Man's villains anyway, or an anti-hero here. It's okay. They do some of the stupidest things sometimes. I remember when X-Men, I think X2, when X2 came out, it was after 9/11 at some point. You know what I mean? Like, I think 9/11, you know what I mean, was rather close or whatever to having happened. And when it came out, they said that they toned it down, or that I'm remembering reading this. I'm trying to think of it. It was either they toned it down, or I think they said they toned down the violence with Wolverine killing the U.S. soldiers because of 9/11. And I'm just like, I just don't see people going to movies like, we've got this going on and you've got Wolverine killing soldiers. People can separate themselves from that. Like, some U.S. soldiers, the army came into the mansion and Wolverine was defending himself and protecting people. And he took out some soldiers. So the fuck what? There's nothing to do with the war that was going on. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, yeah, so we got some problems with Ukraine and Russia going on and Biden stuff, and you don't give him a Russian accent because of that. To me, that's one of the stupidest things in the world. Okay? You think it would have made it bomb any more than it already did? Like, it wouldn't have affected the numbers at all. I just, being on YouTube as long as I have been on, it's like I can't see myself jumping on here and looking at a video and seeing people say, I really didn't like that they had him do the Russian accent. I mean, what's going on with Russia's really bothering me, them in Ukraine. It just made me like PTSD with oh my God, I couldn't enjoy the movie because of his Russian accent. Oh my God. Offensive. I just can't see that happening. Even though we know what this generation and what they've been trying to raise, just go to Twitter. You'll see some psycho stuff. But I don't even think that the Twitter psychos are this psycho. Would be that psycho.
Changing him from a big game hunter to a kind of pseudo-conservationist / vigilante was clearly done to fit with modern sensibilities, but it also neuters the essence of who he is and leaves him without a clear goal or worldview. Also, you're never going to convince me that this guy's supposed to be a fucking antagonist for Spider-Man. The film also clearly wants to say something about the complex and often antagonistic relationship between sons and their...
His father was Kraven. That's who Kraven was. Russell Crowe. That's who Kraven is. And somebody was like, oh, well, they couldn't have got him to play him. He's too short anyway. Shut. People write some of the... Since when has Hollywood cared about the height of an actor? They make it work every time. Like, Russell Crowe was really dark in this. It was a younger him, straight out of Gladiator, grew him some long hair, gave him the mustache. Yo, you know who would have been a good Kraven? If he could do a Russian accent? Rick Rude. Now lie to me and say he wouldn't be. Especially when he eventually cut the hair and he kept the mustache. That's Kraven all day. I knew Rick Rude reminded me of somebody when he cut the hair when he was with the Generation X and stuff. And even before that, he had cut the hair. Kraven.
fathers as boys become men and men become old. The problem is that it doesn't really know what it wants to say or how, so the best it can manage is to have Russell Crowe show up once in a while, drink some vodka, yell at one or both of his sons, and then fuck off again. I mean, I love Russell Crowe as an actor, but holy shit, he needs to fire his agent because he's been in some terrible films lately. Aside from that, all the usual Sony trademarks
It's funny, is I always, I really like Russell Crowe as an actor. Something about him I really like. Maybe Gladiator cemented it in, and that was it. And that's one of the only movies I think that I've really seen him in, and I like him. But I saw that movie he was in where it was like the whole road rage thing. Loved it.
present and correct. The shitty CGI that was clearly done by the lowest bidder to save money, the clunky, awkward dialogue, the desperate attempts to tie it into other better franchises, and the choppy pacing that gives away a troubled production. With terrible reviews and a disastrous opening weekend, not to mention the death of the franchise it's supposed to be part of, the world is unlikely to remember Kraven the Hunter, and if I'm honest, I only watched it a couple of days ago and I'm already starting to forget it. And you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Makes me
some things in life are just not meant
to. Makes me wonder if I gotta check out Jeremy Johns when he said not remembering it. He does that whole you're not gonna remember it in T-minus whatever 10 seconds. Yep, already forgot it. Yeah, I wonder what he gave it. I gotta go watch him. Get over and follow the drinker. Tell him Tyrone Magnus sent you. 10 million subscribers. Woo! I am Kraven the Hunter. And sorry, these spiders villain movies.